Sad news for Chicago. Legendary Bears Hall of Famer Steve Mongo McMichael has died.
We all watched Mongo heroically battle ALS for 4 years. And then earlier today, we got word that he'd been moved to hospice. Then it seemed all too soon, all too quickly, we had learned that he'd passed. NBC5's Jeff Blanzy here now with a look at Mongo's amazing, brave life.
Yeah, always fun to talk to, and you talk to anybody. It didn't matter. That's just the way he lived his life, no question about it. Mongo McMichael had a personality that you just loved. There was nothing fake with number 76. Everything he did with a smile, even if he was sacking a quarterback or in a wrestling ring. Earlier this evening, Mongo lost his long battle with Lou Gehrig's disease. Here's Mike Berman with more on a guy who terrorized opposing offenses for 15 years in the NFL.
One of a kind.
Give my good side, will you?
There may not be a better way to describe Steve McMichael. He was born in October of 1957 in Houston, but grew up in a small town in South Texas where he was a multi-sport star in high school. But he shined brightest on the football field and earned a scholarship to the University of Texas, where he was a two-time All-American as a defensive lineman, a resume that eventually earned him a place in the College Football Hall of Fame. The Patriots drafted him in the third round in 1980. He only lasted one season before being cut, but New England's loss was the Bears' gain. Mongo played 13 seasons in Chicago, helping the Monsters of the Midway win Super Bowl 20 and build one of the most feared defenses in NFL history. He made first-team All-Pro twice, played in a pair of Pro Bowls, and racked up 92.5 sacks, good for second most in Bears history. McMichael even helped Sports Sunday become must-see TV during regular and eccentric appearances on NBC5 in the early 90s.
Grego, when was the last time you could take an outdoor carriage ride with no top on in November in Chicago?
After his football career ended in 1994, he started his second career in sports, spending half a decade as a pro wrestler, the perfect fit for a man who loved to entertain. There was so much more McMichael would go on to do. Play guitar in a band, coach the Chicago Slaughter of the Indoor Football League, open a restaurant and run for mayor in Romeoville, plus lots of work on Chicago Sports Talk Radio. In early 2021, McMichael was diagnosed with ALS, and the disease quickly impacted his larger-than-life personality. But thankfully, he lived long enough to get the long-awaited news that he'd been elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame as a member of the class of 2024. He lives on forever in Canton, Ohio, and in the hearts and minds of his fans in Chicago and across the world. Mike Berman, NBC5 Sports.
All right, Mike, thanks. And the Bears released a statement tonight saying it's a cruel irony that the Bears' Iron Man succumbed to this dreaded disease. Yet Steve showed us throughout his struggle that his real strength was his internal, and he demonstrated on a daily basis his class, his dignity, and his humanity. He is at peace now. This from the Pro Football Hall of Fame president, Jim Porter, saying Steve McMichael was told everyone he would fight ALS with the same tenacity that he showed for 15 seasons in the NFL. And he did just that. That legendary will to fight allowed him to experience his enshrinement as a member of the Hall's class of 2024. Steve McMichael was 67 and is survived by his wife Misty and his daughter Macy. I'll have more reaction coming up a little bit later, including some reaction from one of his former coaches, Dave Wannstedt. Stephen, back to you.
I don't know whether to cry or to laugh because he was just such a funny guy and had such a personality. But sorely missed. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Okay.
McMichael's siblings put out a statement saying they're saddened by the passing of their beloved brother. They say his wonderful journey of life continues into the heavens. Our former sports anchor, Mark Giangreco, knew Mongo personally. He was a co-host on the Sunday night postgame show where McMichael would bring props, often put Giangreco in a chokehold, or even that time he cracked an egg on his head.
I'll tell you, it was an honor and a privilege and quite an adventure to cover a guy like him. He was always the go-to soundbite at practice before and after games. And, of course, our Sports Sunday shows were legendary. We pushed the FCC envelope every weekend. But I want everybody to know that not only was he Mongo, but he was the smartest, wittiest, most clever guy, and really looked out for people. Loved him a lot. Going to miss him.
And Giangreco told us he toasted Mongo tonight at dinner. And he says the off-camera conversations with him will always be what he cherishes the most.
We're going to miss Mongo.